Doug here from the SoundPure Studios, and today we're going to be having some fun with the A-Designs Hammer. While most people consider this more of a program style EQ, and it does wonders across the 2-bus and on things like drum bus, which we will be getting into some drum bus action with the Hammer today, we can also go in and do some really interesting things with individual instruments, which is something you wouldn't expect from a program EQ, but because the Hammer is so powerful, we can actually go in and we can exhibit this tonal changes. While not surgical, they are going to produce some really great results. We're going to go and listen to some dry kick drum. Now you are going to hear some bleed from the other instruments, but again, this is just the kick drum. I found this kick drum to be just a little thin, a little wimpy, had a little bit of a ring to it that I wasn't so down with, and I want to bring up a little bit of the attack. So let's see what we can dial in to make that happen. First things first, I went ahead and engaged the high cut just because I'm not really worried about the top end as much with just a kick drum. Setting at 50 Hertz on the low end, bringing it up about 6 dB just to help bring some meat out of it. I'm then boosting at 1.6, about 3 dB, help bring some of the attack up. And then I'm also boosting again at 3.5, about a dB, again trying to bring more of that attack out of the kick drum. So let's go ahead and hear this with it engaged. So I find that to be a pretty good example of what this equalizer can do on something like a kick drum, which again, in my opinion, is not necessarily where you'd use a program EQ. The Hammer does it really well. Now we're going to solo just the overheads and listen to those with no EQ. So I found the overheads to just be a little bit uninspiring, that there wasn't a lot of sizzle, there wasn't a lot going in the top. Thought the mid-range could be in the way a little bit, and for this test, I actually think I want to show what you can do to the bottom end with just a pair of overheads, so we're going to dial that in. First and foremost, what we've done, taking the high cut and low cut completely out of the equation, and we're just using the EQ section, and we did the same thing on both channels. 6 dB at 50 Hertz. Once again, I wanted to thicken up that bottom end. Brought a little bit of cut at 800. I just thought that would help thin things out just in the mid-range just a little bit, help give us some separation between the top and the bottom. And then did some about 4 dB of boost at 10K. Again, I just kind of wanted that sizzle. I wanted some more of that sparkle in the top end. So let's hear what we've got. Now what we're going to do, just to show how flexible the A-Designs Hammer is, we have gone and printed that original kick drum so that when we processed that kick drum with the EQ, we went ahead and printed it, we brought it back in. We still have the EQ just on our overheads, so we're going to be able to show that as well. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and cue everything up with the Hammer live processing the overheads and our printed kick drum track. I'm going to get everything started that way, and then I'm going to pull it all out so you hear it with no Hammer whatsoever, again on the kick drum and on the overheads. For this last test, I have actually moved the EQ over to the master section, and we're just going to be running the entire drum bus through the EQ, because I think this is where you're going to see the biggest improvement over the sound, and this is where the Hammer really excels. As you can see, we're set up pretty similar to what I did with the overheads. Brought a little bit more of the mids out, brought a little bit more of the top in, and that's because we're dealing with the entire recording of the drums, all 7 mics. So as you can see, the Hammer is a very impressive tool to have here in the studio. I love using it on the drums, especially on the drum bus. It's usable in other places on the drums, as we've demonstrated, but on the bus, I think it's where it does its best work. So if you have any questions about the A-Designs Hammer or any recording techniques or methods that we might have used on this recording, please feel free to give us a call here at Sound Pure.